Well, if you ever need a place to stay, I've got extra rooms. Nobody should be cold in all of this, you know.
No, it never got too bad.
Good, good, good. I'm actually putting my little scarf on as we speak. It's getting colder. My heat was out not too long ago, so I remember being very cold. All right, well, we got about 4 minutes and we will get started promptly at 5. And I think we are just waiting on our final panelist, which is Matt Welch.
I'm surprised they participated, to be honest.
I'm glad that they are. Yeah, I'm actually glad that he's going to be present to address any specific legal questions that neither you nor Beth or I could answer. So that's good.
Yeah, it's just usually they don't provide public legal opinions.
Okay.
So
Well, we'll see what happens today.
I hope he goes the way I've been talking. I hope he doesn't contradict me.
He won't. We won't. All right. Well, the attendees are all starting to come in. It looks like we're up to about 9 attendees so far. Have been.
Are they all the people that we expect?
They're
Yep,
all
I think.
on and can hear.
Okay.
Yeah, we're live. We've got a lot of the folks that we've been communicating with already are on
All
there.
right. I was just wondering if we had any new people.
Not to my knowledge. All right, so we're going to give this another minute or so, or a few minutes.
I had to tell my son to turn down his music.
That's funny. And Patrece, since we only have 30 minutes, Beth will be responding to questions in the chat. If you and Beth can kind of tag team, if there are any questions that Beth can't answer or you want to expand on, please do. Matt is attempting to connect to audio, it appears right now, and maybe having some struggles. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Of course.
So we have all of our attendees are jumping on right now. And then we have the 7 of us that are up on the screen right now. 6 of us are panelists. And then we have Alberta Wilmer, who's present as our IT support. And thank you so very much, Alberta, for being on to make sure this webinar doesn't go sideways. And Matt, if there are any specific legal questions, if you could just kind of keep an eye on the chat. Beth is taking lead on responding to questions. Patrece will chime in or correct or emphasize or expand on as needed. And if you see anything in there, legally that you need to correct or confirm or whatever, please do. And if you and Patrece have a different view on something, then we'll certainly chat about that. But I think we're all going to be in pretty good shape here.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Okay, we are at 5 o'clock. So if we could please begin the recording, and when it's begun, let me know.
It's on.
Wonderful. All righty. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate all of you taking time out of your busy schedules to be present tonight. It looks like, as of right now, we have 17 attendees, and we have our panelists with us. My name is Michelle Long Spears. I am the District 2 Commissioner. We are also joined by Miss Patrece Keeter of Transportation, Mr. Matthew Welch, one of our Deputy County Attorneys, Miss Sonia Tyler, who has been our Chief of Staff since October 1st, Miss Beth Ganga, who is our department, when I say our, I mean District 2. She is the District 2 Policy and Planning Manager. We also know and love Caroline Enlow. Miss Enlow has been with the county for over 30 years, served as the Chief of Staff up until September 30th of last year, in which she retired and started a new chapter of her life. And we were so fortunate, and still are, that she has remained on as an advisor to our team. And last but certainly not least, because it's an incredibly critical person to be a part of these Zoom webinars, is Alberta Wilmer, who is with our IT team and will help us manage our webinar today and address any challenges that we may have. So we are going to dive in because I have until 5:30 and unfortunately do have to jump off for another Zoom tonight. I hope that everybody has been safe and warm and snuggled up in your homes and enjoying the snow. I don't know about y'all, but we ended up with a fair amount of snow at my house. And I hope you guys were able to experience the snow yourselves. I appreciate all of you. I looked at the attendee list and several of y'all have shown up to public comment at our last business meetings that we've had. So thank you so much for taking the time, taking off work to show up, share your opinion, and share your concerns. I also appreciate everybody who has participated in the independent meetings I've had. So I had one meeting with representatives that oppose the traffic calming measures, had another meeting with representatives that support the traffic calming measures. I believe that both of those meetings actually went quite well. Let me take a peek at the attendee list and make sure there's no one else on here that I need to call out. We do have Mr. Davis Fox. Unfortunately, Commissioner Terry was unable to be present today. So Mr. Fox is here and he will chime in as needed and will certainly debrief Commissioner Terry at a later date. We also have as an attendee, Mr. Doug Rollins, who is the initiator of this traffic calming measure. And then, of course, we have so many other residents who have emailed us, called us, and participated during public comment. So thank you all so much. Today's Zoom has been set up as a webinar. So you have your panelists that you see on the screen. And all of our attendees, we have been asked the question, how do we ask a question? So if you have a question today during our Zoom webinar, my preference is that you please add your question in the Q&A box that you'll see next to the chat little icon. And on my computer, it's at the bottom of the screen. It does appear right now that it's working because I am seeing some comments already in here. Miss Beth Ganga will be responding to questions as I talk, and Miss Patrece Keeter and Mr. Welch will also be chiming in, expanding on, correcting, emphasizing any of Beth's responses to the questions. Beth, right now, would you please pull up the flow chart? All righty, thank you very much. It's itty bitty on your screen, and I also believe that this flow chart is on the county website. And so the DeKalb County Code of Ordinances, section 17-116, lays out a legally grounded, clearly defined process for citizens to request traffic calming measures on their streets. The initiator of this request was Doug Rollins. He started the process requesting the traffic calming on Clifton Road. To even be considered, there had to be greater than 20% of residents on the street, in this case it's Clifton, had to have signed the initial interest petition. showing that there was enough interest for the county to expend resources and dedicate staff time towards a traffic calming project. The initial interest petition did receive greater than 20%. And so if you want to look at our chart on the screen, you'll see that the very top box, citizens initiates that request. There's 45 days, initial interest petition, 20% or greater signatures. If it failed, the citizen, Doug in this case, would have been sent a failure letter. Now we moved on from there to conduct the traffic study. And so the traffic study was conducted by our transportation department, and the traffic calming plans were designed. Right now we're at 16 speed tables on Clifton and then 1 on Clifton Ridge. The type of traffic calming measures that could be considered for this area was limited by precedent set by the HPC. Based on precedent, the HPC has requested that we only use speed tables and striping within the historic district. The number of speed tables in the plan, and right now for everyone following along, we're at the section where it says staff designs the conceptual plans and notifies the initiator. Then you'll see the, I guess, circle, if you will, where it has staff and then citizen input for 12 months max. That's where we're at actually on our flow chart. And so again, the number of speed tables was determined by a formula and is based on the length of the road. Clifton is roughly 1.5 miles long, hence the need for 16 speed tables. Patrece has informed us that the formula for traffic calming and for them to be effective, the measure needs to be placed anywhere from 300 to 500 feet apart. So the vote next week, what that vote is for is to allow the start of the 90-day final petition process and let residents decide for themselves if the proposed traffic calming plan is right for your street. The 90-day final petition is completely separate, and I want to emphasize that, completely separate from the initial interest petition. And the votes from the initial petition do not carry over to the 90-day final petition. So what this means, and where I've heard a lot in public comment, is that if you signed that initial petition and you have changed your mind for whatever reason, then you do not have to sign the 90-day petition. And I want to repeat that. So if you signed the initial petition and things have changed, you weren't aware of the number 16, whatever it might be, because you assigned it initially, doesn't mean that you are forced to sign this second petition, this 90-day petition. If at least 65% of property owners sign the final petition in favor of the plan, staff will place the item on the BOC agenda to approve the special tax district and install the speed tables. So right now, as you're following through the flow chart, we're at the triangle right now. And so Beth, if you can scroll up a little bit for me. Thank you. Okay, and just a little bit more and we'll just get to the very end of that. Okay, so we're at the triangles, the 90 days, final petition, 65% or greater signatures of homeowners in that area. So the concern articulated by residents, in addition to others, but one of them in particular, was around the late addition of Clifton Ridge to the project. I have been told by transportation, and please correct us if we're wrong, Patrece, that this does not violate the traffic calming process as laid out in the code, since it was approved by the initiator, again, that is Doug, and occurred before the 90-day petition process begins. And that petition process is what we're voting on Tuesday. So once the 90-day petition process begins, there can be no more changes to the plans. I'll repeat that. Once the 90-day process begins and you've got the petition, we're trying to get well, not we, you, whomever, the initiators trying to get the 65% or greater, we can't change the plan that has been mapped out for us. This process, I know, has been a little bit messy and confusing and complicated. And I hope that highlighting this flow chart during today's meeting is helpful to everyone. Right now, based on the information that I have received, reviewing the traffic calming information that has been sent to me, what has is highlighted on the DeKalb County website. At this point in time, I am in favor of moving forward with and I want to be crystal clear, the 90-day final petition process. So I am not stating I am supportive of it. I am supportive of the project itself. I am supportive of the 90-day petition process beginning. All right. This is also going to be the recommendation from our transportation department. And Patrece, I do appreciate you taking the time after a day of not having electricity and heat to be on our call with us tonight. One thing to keep in mind is that if the petition passes and the stakeholders are dissatisfied with the speed tables, they can always petition to remove, totally, partially remove the measures that were put in place and install new measures after 1 year. And the code for that is 17-129. This gives the options to the neighbors. A new traffic calming code is implemented, and the HPC, or if it is implemented, and or the HPC makes any new rulings on appropriate measures. Again, I want to thank everyone so much for being present with us tonight. I tried to walk through this as quickly as possible so that we could get to the question parts. Y'all give me one moment, and I'm going to switch over to the Q&A. All right.
And Commissioner, I'm sorry, there was a couple of questions I may have accidentally deleted. So I'm not familiar with this webinar format. I was trying to answer them and all of a sudden they disappeared. So if your question disappeared, please add it back in.
Patrece, I think it may be under the answered tab. I can see the previous questions. There's open and then there's answered at the top of your questions and answers pop up. If yours looks the same as mine.
Okay,
And
so
two questions specifically about the scope of the traffic study, and then one that the commissioner already addressed about Clifton Ridge have moved to the answered section.
Okay.
all right.
All right. Go ahead, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what I'm looking at under the Q&A, I do see 3 answered. Deborah Henry and Tammy Troy. So it looks like those questions were answered live. Thank you, Patrece or Beth, whoever did it. Okay, then I'm going to go to where everybody can see under Q&A, or I hope y'all can see it. It says open, and there are 7. Enter a question about what would have planned in them. Okay, so this came in at 4:52. That was prior to the webinar starting. Okay, let me read it and make sure we responded to it. Before Ms. Keeter comes on, why has she not answered a question about what she would have planned had she not believed she was constrained by the HPC's rules? This is a key question. The street was offered nothing except speed humps. Perhaps Doug would have taken advice from her if she had been willing. I don't want to see them harsh, but I have wondered this question from the beginning. And so, Patrece,
I can't answer that question because I have addressed it in at least one email. And maybe I misspoke, but a lot of those neighborhood streets in Druid Hills are very wide. I would have liked to have seen the pedestrian and bicycle network expanded instead of on-street parking on the byway, instead of, just I would have liked to have seen the pedestrian bike expanded, but that was not the choice of the citizens and stakeholders or the initiators of those streets. So we're not forcing ourselves on the counties or the engineers desires. We do let the street decide what functions that they want within the limits of the HPC. And so, I have been communicating almost constantly on this project, and I know I've answered that at least once or twice. And for whoever asked that question, I apologize if you weren't on those emails.
Thank you, Patrece. Moving on to our next question that came in at 4:53 prior to our webinar. And one last from the same individual. Why the delay in conducting a study for our street, a real one, not a 2-day, very limited inquiry into traffic patterns? Patrece, can you address that as well?
Right. So that's our standard operating procedure, 2 days. Your 2 typical days, not holiday weeks, not weekends, unless the problem is specifically on the weekend. We will challenge that and change that. But we usually do Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. And that's, it's just a typical weekday traffic. And another reason we don't do it for longer is our batteries only last so long. We might be able to get 3 days, but that's as long as our batteries last on our equipment.
Thank you for responding to that. All right, moving on to HPT from the same individual. The HPC does not constrain the plan. They have said so. So once something is done somewhere in Druid Hills, setting precedent, then that is the only thing available going forward. That makes little sense. So as I was talking earlier, there is the option that if stakeholders are dissatisfied with the speed tables, that you can always petition to remove totally or remove, install a new measure after year 1 per the code 17-129. So there is an option here. Patrece, anything to add on that, or does that cover it?
I think that covers it. I would just add that gives the HPC time to give us firm direction on what measures are appropriate. And it's not just for Clifton, because all those other streets wanted something else too. So you're going to see if the measures change, you're going to see a transition throughout the community, most likely, not just on one street.
Great, thank you so much. We have a question from, and you might as well go ahead and get off mute again, Patrece. I did not hear if a traffic calming study was done from the 3-way stop at Clifton and East Clifton up to Ponce.
So what we do with traffic calming is we do a typical traffic study. So if Clifton south of Ponce wanted traffic calming, that Ponce changes the character of the road because the origins and destinations, it's a major road. If they wanted it north of North Keeter, that would be a change because the traffic patterns would change. But in between, there's no big generators. There's no big, it's pretty steady. So we just do them between the 2 major roads. It's just a matter of resources. Because if you pass up one side of the road, you're most likely going to, it's going to pass. Once the road passes, it passes. So it's unnecessary to do multiple studies.
All right, thank you, Patrece. We do have another question from Pipkin. I'm going to go to the second sentence. It says, is it true that the Safer Clifton folks don't have the tables in front of their homes?
I have no idea about where people live, and the speed tables are placed based on distance between for effectiveness, and also we have to watch out for drainage structures, for manhole covers, for driveways. So it's highly unlikely that they influence the design and put them in front of other people's homes and not theirs, because it would be, there's only so many places that they could go. So I find that to be I'll just say that if that happened, we are unaware of that. at the county side.
Thank you, Patrece. And again, I stated earlier, and I learned through my study of this, is that these measures, they're supposed to be placed 300 to 500 feet apart to be effective. All right, moving on. Were the speed tables suggested by a study or by the initiator?
Well,
So,
once you do the process and you pass the traffic calming study, then the engineer will make recommendations. And because this was in the historic district, we recommended speed tables or striping.
great, thank you very much. Moving on. And this is Tammy Troy, since DeKalb is going to engage a countywide study on traffic calming issues, why are we in such a hurry to make a decision on Clifton Road, Part B? Why not use Clifton as the first neighborhood in the study?
Well, I mean, the study has not even been awarded yet. So you're talking about it's got to be awarded. The contracts have got to be signed. It's like 6 or 9 months of study time. Then whatever the outcome of the study is, we've got to get with the law department and rework the code. And so the new study is not going to be implemented for a year and a half, 2 years. So by putting it on hold, there's no reason, because by that time you could petition to change the measure or remove them totally if you're unsatisfied.
Great, thank you for that.
Matt has a hand up.
Oh, Matt, go ahead. I can't see hands up. Y'all are going to have to stop me because I'm looking at the Q&A. Go ahead, Matt.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to add to that piece that, from a legal perspective, the code does lay out a petition process, and the initial requester and more than 20% of the neighbors have approved that plan. So to the question of why not hold until a larger study can be done or some other process can be followed, the initiator has followed a process that is in our code. And so at this point, unless the initiator withdraws it or the board does not approve that next step, we're in the legal process. So the county doesn't have the ability to now ignore the initiator, I guess is the simple way to say what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I just want to correct one little thing. The 20% is just enough. We do this because we would spend all these resources, the 20% on the initial interest petition, we would spend all these resources and only one person wanted it. And so what we do is the 20% doesn't bind you. You haven't approved the plan just because you signed the initial interest petition. It just says you're interested. It's the 65% petition that's the vote yes, vote up or down, yes or no. So while everything was correct, I just want to just for clarity say the 20% was just saying that you're interested enough in traffic calming for us to do a study and to work on a plan. And then now at the 65%, the final petition phase, if you sign the initial interest petition and you don't like it, then you can sign no at the final petition or not sign it at all. Like a signature is a no vote. Or if you wouldn't sign the initial petition, but now you like it, you can sign the petition. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the 20% petition is a non-binding petition.
Great, thank you for that clarification. We have a quick comment. Plan of humps is a good one. There's no need for a second study. Moving on to Noel and Philip. Will the cost of speed tables to the county be shared as residents evaluate their decision? Patrece, can you respond to that?
Will the cost?
Will the cost of speed tables to the county be shared as residents evaluate their decision?
Right. Well, I can tell you the speed tables cost about $5,000 each. And we do in our agenda item, put an approximate cost if the measure is approved. I don't have that agenda item right in front of me, but that is public knowledge. But around $5,000 each is the cost. And, but that's borne by the county, and the maintenance fee is $25 a year per parcel within the affected area. So I don't know if that answers your question. There won't be any additional cost for installation for the people within the affected area. It's the $25 a year. And that's so that when we resurface the road, we can pop them up. If the striping's faded, we can restripe. If the signs, whatever, it's used for maintenance. So you're kind of paying extra for a specially maintenance program for speed tables. So we're able to use that money to the $25 fee a year per parcel to do that extended maintenance.
And I do have the agenda item pulled up, Patrece, and the estimated cost is $78,600 as contained in that agenda item.
And that'll go up by 5,000 because of we're adding that Clifton Ridge speed table.
Great. Thank you both. I appreciate that. The next question, and forgive me, I'm having some Zoom challenges. My Q&A closed out. I need to catch back up. Okay, another anonymous attendee question. So the initiator has decided not to put the process on hold, even though they were asked to withdraw their petition. To my knowledge, no, the initiator, Doug, has not done that. Moving on, Pipkin's computer, 96.4% of drivers were not speeding according to that study. My end of Clifton doesn't need what other parts need. HPDC does not comment about what happens on the street, and you are not acknowledging that. Okay, thank you for your comment. Is there a legal way to dispute the individual speed bump placement prior to waiting 12 months to pass? Matt, can you respond to that? Or Patrece? Let me reread it.
Way?
Yeah, is there a legal way to dispute individual speed bump placements prior to waiting 12 months to pass?
I'm trying to choose my words carefully here. I've been involved in a lot of traffic calming cases since 2005. And this is probably the most engaged one, both, publicly engaged, but also I've seen emails sending stuff out from the initiator, trying to get everyone involved in the process all the way. And, we even had a public meeting, a stakeholder meeting with signs up to start this discussion. So I really believe there was opportunities along the way to participate. And it's a lot of work for the initiator. And so I can see why, after doing all that work, he chooses not to change the plan. Can the plan be changed until it gets approved by the board? Yes, it can. But we still have to miss driveways. We still have to, be so far away from intersections and so far away from curves and space them correctly. So it's we're kind of late in the game to start talking plan changes at this point.
Thank you for your response, Patrece. In the interest of time, folks, I'm going to skip past comments and go to questions only. This is from Casey Burns. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It does seem silly to install solutions and then somehow get them removed and changed after a year. Why not get it right from the beginning? And I'm strongly in favor of traffic calming, but opposed to inefficiency. To very briefly respond to that is that this is a clearly defined, legally grounded process that we're required to follow. Mark Goldman, why spend money for speed tables and replace them 1 year with appropriate effective measures for each portion of the street? Let's do this once. Again, this is a legally grounded, very defined process. And that additional year afterwards, I guess it may seem inefficient. I can understand that. That is the process. Moving on to questions only. While this is not listed as a question, I will read it out because we've received several emails related to emergency personnel and emergency vehicles. I am concerned about how the speed table will affect the ambulance and fire truck response time. A speed table will still cause a bump and pain and possible inquiry to patients, please have emergency personnel evaluate the plan. Patrece, are you able to respond to that? Because I did a little homework myself into it.
Right. So we did reach out to our fire department operations, who runs the ambulance service as well. And Clifton Road is not their route for ambulances. They've done some studies, and it does. I mean, I'm not going to say it doesn't slow ambulances down. Our own fire department's done a study back in 2011. And I know that has age on it, but it's still relevant, where for an ambulance is about 3 seconds at that point. And of course, the ambulances are getting smaller and more efficient. So that's probably going down. I just challenge when you're investigating stuff on the internet to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because we have a 22-foot wide length of speed table, which has a slight ramp up and a slight down, where some speed tables are only 14 feet. Some people call them speed humps, and they're only 3 feet. So any delays you read on the internet, it's important to look at not only the design of the speed table or speed hump, but also the design vehicle they're running over that speed table or speed hump. But I mean, I think 3 to 5 seconds is would be a very conservative high number of delay.
Great, thank you. And then a note that I have is that on a 25-mile-per-hour street, per the fire department policy, ambulances can only drive at 35 miles per hour. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Because they have to
All right.
watch out for dogs and kids running and all
Sure.
that. So
Yep.
they can only go 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit on a
Thank you.
street.
All right. So Mr. Helms, and again, forgive me if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. We did respond to your comment. The next one is from Dustin. I want to make sure I'm clear because I think it is important. You are saying that adding the speed table sooner does not affect the street's ability to pursue other options in the future. I will respond to that again. If after they're installed, stakeholders don't like it, they have to stay in place for a year, and then you can pursue changes after that. Right, Patrece? Got it. Okay. Would it be considered
Here,
to?
I want to do a time check. It's after 5:30.
Okay, thank you. I will go through 2 more questions, and then we'll need to wrap up. And Ms. Ganga and Ms. Keeter, if we could please make note of the many remaining questions left, and then we can certainly prepare responses and get them out to everybody in the next few days. All right, I left off here. Would it be considered to implement a roundabout at the 3-way area where Clifton Road and East Clifton? Patrece, can you respond to that?
Yeah, I actually think that's not a bad idea. A little neighborhood roundabout. However, when I put in that always stop at Clifton and East Clifton, I wanted to modify that island, and I was not allowed to do so. So that would be a great discussion to have with HPC and see if we can come to a consensus on what measures are now. I mean, I understand things change that are now appropriate, but they didn't want to change Olmsted's vision, and his vision wasn't a roundabout. It was that pork chop island. But I do think that that's a good idea.
Great, thank you. What will time, this is Noelle and Philip again, will time to install disruption to traffic during installation be shared to help residents evaluate their decisions?
Well, time to install. So what they normally do is build half of one in a day. Well, they finish it, but they always keep the lanes open. They're built out of our roads and drainage division. I don't see why we couldn't share that. I mean, we could share it with, the commissioner and the initiator and whomever.
Okay.
When they go to construction.
Great, thank you. And so we've got time for 1 or 2 more questions. I'm glossing over, and please forgive me, but questions I think that we've already responded to. The cost, the route. One moment. Okay, this is a question here. We received at 5:25. Is it a petition led by Safer Clifton Committee, or will each neighbor be mailed something to execute or ignore? So what's the petition process, Patrece?
So the petitions will be given to the initiator.
Okay.
And to be distributed. Now, the thing about the petitions, and it's like we're setting up a special tax district, so it's like a legal document. So if 2 people own the house, both people have to sign for it to be a yes vote. If 10 people own the house, all 10 have to sign to be a yes vote. If a trust owns the house, they have to submit papers that they're the trustee. If someone's unfortunately passed away, we need a obituary or a death certificate or something that we can hang our hats on that that person can't sign. So it's more like a legal document. So we scrutinize those signatures pretty hard.
All right. Thank you, Patrece. We're going to go to our final question. So it's from Pipkin's Computer. So the county pays the $83,000. We pay the $25 annually into perpetuity. Is that correct, Patrece?
That is correct. From the
Okay.
date, the tax year after they're installed, it begins. If the measures are removed, then obviously the tax is removed as well.
All right, great. Okay, folks. Well, I apologize. We are out of time. A note to Sonia Tyler, my new chief of staff. Sonia, if you would please make sure that you capture all of the questions that are listed in open, all of the questions that are which is 42 right now, all of the questions in answered. There are 12 of those. It doesn't appear that there are any dismissed questions, but double check to make sure. And we will work on responses to your questions, send them out to those that have inquired with us. If you have not sent us an email or you don't receive the responses, please do reach out to me. My email is mlspears@dekalbcountyga.gov. Again, it's M for Michelle, L for Long, Spears, like Brittany, at DeKalbCountyGA.gov, and we will certainly send you the responses that we compiled. In closing, I appreciate everybody taking time out tonight. Please stay warm. Please stay safe. I know that this has been a really contentious issue. We have heard you. Again, to back up, we met with both sides. And just please know that DeKalb Transportation, this project's been led by Patrece. You know, she has invested a lot of time and energy into this, and we are doing our very best. Again, I want to thank all of the residents that are with us today. I'd also like to thank the folks that are on as our panelist. Again, Ms. Patrece Keeter, done most of the talking. Thank you. Mr. Matthew Welch from our law department, Sonia Tyler, new chief of staff, Miss Beth Ganga, who is the one who's been the liaison for my office and responding to majority of your questions. She's policy and planning. Caroline Enlow, we all love and adore you. And Miss Alberta Wilmer, thank you all so much for being here, and we will get responses to you as soon as possible. Take care, folks, and have a good night. Bye-bye.
Should we stay on?
Hey.